Welcome back to Cassandra's Bible Corner and our Through New Eyes series. We are ending our journey in Nineveh with the final chapter for this teaching series, chapter 10, the gourd, the worm, and the wind. Jonah has now fulfilled his mission, not with joy. He's consumed with anger, resentment, bitterness, and regret, forever setting foot in Nineveh. His plea to God was to die. He said, "O Lord, take, I beseech thee, my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live." Jonah just delivered the message and sees that Nineveh wasn't consumed, and he is just filled with so much anger. Everything that he has done, everything that he has worked for, everything that he had hoped is now confirmed in this moment. They were not consumed. They lived. And Jonah is wroth. And he asks God and says, "Take my life from me. This is not worth living anymore. I didn't think I was going to see this day. I didn't think I was going to be involved in saving these people. And now that I am, I want to die. I would rather die. I don't want to even live to see these people live on." So the very character of God that Jonah had long celebrated at this moment infuriated him. He says to God and confesses the reason why he ran away to Tarshish. He said, "I knew that thou art a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and of great kindness, and repented thee of the evil." Why would Jonah know that he's a gracious God and merciful and slow to anger and of great kindness? Jonah would have to have tested that. And Jonah is an Israelite. They have been sinning. They've been sinning. They've been repenting. Then they were sinning and they repented. So they know that God is slow to anger. God would send prophets. He would send them warnings. They know he's slow to anger, and they know that he's of great kindness and that he will repent of evil. Anything that he would say he would want to do with them, if they just pray and return, God is going to forgive. He's going to hear. He's going to turn. So Jonah here is now throwing this in the face of God and saying, this is why I was trying to run. I know you. I know you're merciful. I know that you take a while to get angry. I know that you're of great kindness. And I knew that if I came here, and even if I just came and said, "Hello," they would find some way to repent. I knew it, and I did not want to come. And you forced me here, forced me to deliver this message, and now I'm seeing that they are being saved. I want to die. Just kill me now. I'm over it. I did not want to be a part of this at all. I don't want to see it. He was wroth. Now suicidal. Kill me. I'm ready to die. So Jonah, after he delivers this message, he doesn't deliver the message and then go home. He delivers this message and then he goes on to the outside of the city to watch. He is hoping that there is a slim chance, a glimmer, that there is something might happen, that the Ninevites might renege on their repentance, that they might come to their senses and say, maybe we don't want to do this. So he sits outside the city, goes on the east side of the city and watches, plotting, spying out to see if his enemies are going to fall. And out here on this east side of the city, the sun is so hot. And you can imagine when you're where the sun rises on the east. This is when it is most hot. This is when it's most glorious. It is just starting out. So the sun is radiant, and Jonah naively goes and plants himself on the east side of the city. So he's getting the full extent of the sun. He's getting the scorchingness of the sun. And he is sitting here spying out on his enemies, hoping that they are going to fall. And while he's out here, he's realizing this is not comfortable. I'm burning out here. I don't have no protection. I don't have no covering. And he makes himself a booth. He makes himself a little covering, makes himself, something to shade him, because he's here for the long haul. Remember, it said, yet 40 days. Nineveh has 40 days, right? Jonah is out here trying to outlast and say, okay, somewhere, even though they've repented here now and God has forgiven them, there's a chance between now and these 40 days that they might slip up, they might fall, they might backslide back into their old ways and old habits. So Jonah is sitting, lying in wait, hoping that they are going to be doomed. So Jonah is in his booth and he's spying out on the Ninevites. So God comes and he prepares a gourd. Just as the Bible said he prepared the fish as a means to save Jonah from drowning, God prepares a gourd. And a gourd is like a plant. It's a plant. God prepared this plant to shade Jonah. So even though Jonah was out here spying out on his enemies, hoping for the destruction, God now prepares shade for him, because he sees that what Jonah has prepared for himself is inadequate. What Jonah has built and constructed is not giving him the proper shade. So God prepared a gourd to shade Jonah. So this gourd, if we take some time, and I took some time to think about it, and I realized the miracle in this gourd. So this gourd grew. It was large and lush in a single day. It offered better relief from the oppressive sun than Jonah's self-made booth, because Jonah left his booth to go sit under the shade of the gourd. So in one single day, this plant grew and was big enough to shade a grown man. It was lush enough that it was better than the booth that Jonah had built for himself. In one single day, this gourd grew. There's a miracle in that already. So what God provided, what God can do, is always going to be better than what we can provide for ourselves. The things that we can try to do, we think we're self-sufficient. I can make my own booth. I can go it alone. I don't need God. I have people. I have friends. And all these things that we think we're self-sufficient, and we have all these other means and have all these other backup plans. This scripture is showing us that what God built in a moment, just one single day, was better and bigger and more adequate than what we could ever build and do for ourselves. So Jonah, when he sees this gourd, he's exceedingly glad. This is the only time in this entire scripture that we hear that Jonah is happy. Every other time, he's mad, he's angry, he's, responding hastily, he's escaping. It's all these other kind of things. This is the first time that we hear that Jonah is showing an emotion, a positive emotion. He is happy, right? Only time. So Jonah's joy is tied to his personal comfort, not compassion. The only time that we find that Jonah is happy is when he has personal comfort. Now he has shade, proper, adequate shade to do what? To spy spy out on his enemies. He's not even putting the two together to consider that God is providing for you while you're out here not doing the proper things. God is still thinking about you. God is still remembering you. Even when you're out here doing your own thing, God still has you in mind. He still has you in heart. So after this, in that night, God prepares a worm. And overnight, that worm, it attacks the gourd and it withers. Overnight. So by the time Jonah wakes up in the morning, the gourd is withered. So overnight, a worm came and devoured and caused this gourd to wither. It attacked it and it caused it to wither overnight. This big gourd, this big plant that could shade a man. It was so lush. It was so fertile. One worm in a few hours caused that thing to wither up. And if we think about this, it brought back my mind to Joel 1, 1 verse 4, where we see the cankerworm, the palmer worm, the locust, how God can use small, insignificant things that cause great destruction. Simple things that God can do under His control, under His direction, under His power, under His authority can cause so much destruction. This one worm overnight was able to take down this gourd under God's authority. So God uses small, unexpected things to confront our heart conditions. When we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing, when we are too busy in ourselves and lavishing in what we have, God can send small, little, insignificant things in our lives that just tear apart and break down and cause destruction and cause what we have built up, cause what we have taken pride in to wither and be destroyed. When we get too self-reliant and too self-confident and too enriched, God sends a worm in our lives to eat up our comforts. Overnight, He just wipes everything away. Overnight, everything vanishes. Overnight, we are exposed. So the next morning, Jonah wakes up and he sees that his gourd was destroyed. And you would think maybe this is the time he would consider leaving and going home. He was out here, he's burning up in the sun. He made a booth. It wasn't quite adequate. Then he has this gourd and he finally gets the proper shade and then wakes up in the morning, the gourd is gone. Maybe he would think, okay, you know what? I don't need any more signs. I don't need any more convincing. God is not pleased with what I am doing. Let me go home. But Jonah dug in, 10 toes down. Jonah dug into his stubbornness. He dug into his, all the things that he's feeling and says, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere. I have to see if these people are going to live, even if it's to his own detriment. He is staying because he wants to see the destruction of his enemies. So God had to keep going. This is just like in the belly of the fish when he was out in the sea. God caused the storm to come, and you would think, okay, that vicious, fierce storm that's going to cause the ship to break, that would have been a wake-up call for Jonah. And at that moment, Jonah would have been like, okay, God, sorry, I shouldn't be running away. I shouldn't be escaping. Let me go and complete this mission. No, Jonah was like, throw me in the water. I'm okay. I'm done with this. I'm ready to die. I'm good. And he has to get thrown in the water and go into the belly of the fish. He needs more and more and more all the time. all this convincing that God has to keep doing to him for Jonah to hear, for Jonah to understand the stubbornness that Jonah has. So with the gourd gone, Jonah doesn't give up. He's relentless. So God sends now, he prepares a wind, a east wind. And remember, Jonah is on the east side of the city. He's getting all this scorching sun, so much so that his head is burning, his head is scorching, And now God sends this a venomous east wind. So it is blowing at Jonah. And remember, I spoke about that east wind. That east wind is when God sends it, it is there to humble things. It is there to make things low. It is there to bring things under subjection when he sends an east wind. So he sent this east wind to say, okay, Jonah, you're not ready. You're not ready to give up. You need a little more convincing. And he prepares the wind. With this wind, Jonah grows faint. He has the sun. He has that fierce wind. Jonah grows faint and again wishes for death. He says, it is better for me to die than to live. That's verse 4, Jonah 4, verse 8. It is better for me to die than to live. He's repeating this. He does not want to be a part of this. He says, just take me out of here. Just take me out of here. I can't do this. But it's like, Jonah, you could just go home. You don't have to endure this. You don't have to be out here in the burning sun. You don't have to be out here in the strong east wind. You don't have to be putting yourself through this. This is self-inflicted. You do not have to be putting yourself in this. But your thirst to see your enemy fall, even if it's to your own peril, you're willing to do. It's like an obsession that is getting Jonah, that he's enduring this pain because his mind is so focused on his enemies. So God asked Jonah a question. He said, doest thou well to be angry for the gourd? Nice simple question. Do you have a right to be angry for the gourd? Should you be angry for the gourd? Why are you angry about this gourd? You're ready to die. You're ready to give it all up because you didn't get this gourd is gone. And Jonah answers. He's a little cheeky. He's a little cheeky. He's a little bold-faced. And he says, I do well to be angry, even unto death. Jonah says, yeah, you sure? I have a right to be angry. I am taking all this to the grave. You're not changing my mind. I have so many things to be angry about. I don't care if I die. I'm going to die being angry. I'm going to die being mad. All the things, God, that you have put me through that I never asked to go through, all these things that you've been putting me through, just kill me. Get it over with. I don't want to do that. I didn't sign up for this. So instead of just looking within and trying to see how his heart can change, Jonah is like, no, I have a right to be angry. I never asked you to meddle in my life. I never asked you to turn things down. I never asked you to give me a mission. I never asked you to tell me to go prophesy to anyone. And we do these things to God all the time. To God, I never asked you. I never asked you to send that person in my life. I never asked you to send that husband, or I never asked you to send that wife. I never asked you for these children. I never asked you for that friend. I never asked you for that particular job. Like, we throw these things back in God's face and say, God, I never asked you to do all these things. You did these things and now you want to take it away. Now you want to turn it around and then you want to say, why am I angry? I'm angry because I didn't ask for these things and things are not going my way. and we throw the same things in God's face. Yes, I have a right to be angry. I'm going to stew because life is unfair. They shouldn't be getting mercy. They shouldn't be getting, grace. It shouldn't be happening. And I'm angry. And I will die being angry. So God follows Jonah's response with a rebuke. He says, "Thou hast had pity on the gourd, for the which thou hast not labored, neither made it to grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night. And should not I spare Nineveh, that great city, wherein are more than 60,000 persons that cannot discern between their right hand and their left hand, and also much cattle?" Ask him back a question. He didn't respond to Jonah's, negativity and, boldness. He asks him another question. You had pity on the gourd. You didn't labor for this gourd. You didn't work for this gourd. You didn't plant this gourd. You didn't do nothing for this gourd. It came up in one day and it was gone in one day, and you had pity that the gourd was gone. But yet in this city, when there are 120,000, people who can't discern their left or their right hand, so innocent people, yet there are people who can't defend themselves, can't speak for themselves, maybe don't know better. You are okay that they are lost. You can't find no compassion for them, but this gourd? And God is asking him that question. And if we break it down just a little bit, the over 120,000, that could be taken in two different ways, right? It says 64,000 persons that cannot discern between their right hand or their left hand. That could mean a couple of things. It could mean 120,000 children, so they can't discern the left hand behind the left. It could be 120,000 children. Maybe he's saying that there are over 120,000 children, innocent people, children that have nothing to do with this. They are not the wicked. They had nothing to do with what was going on in the city. They're just a product of the environment that they're born into. God is saying there are some innocent people there, and even if it's not children, there are people who are enslaved that are there. They're not there of their own free will. They're not there by choice. They didn't migrate there. They didn't relocate. They were forced to be there. There's all these different kind of people. So God said there's over 120,000 innocent people. Yes, there are wicked people there. Yes, there are evil people there. But there are also people who have nothing to do with any of this. And God is saying, the innocent, you're okay that everybody is destroyed. Everybody is consumed. God is trying to appeal to his, human side. And God says also there's much cattle that is there. Hoping that if the people didn't resonate, if the innocent didn't resonate with Jonah, maybe the livestock, maybe the animals might resonate with Jonah. So while the city was filled with all these evil people, and God said there was also much cattle. The mention of the cattle demonstrates God's care for all creation, extending beyond humanity to include every living thing. God is noticing, he's cognitive of even the animals that are there. But also, God pointing out that, there were cattle, animals, livestock. Cattle were essential for agriculture. transportation, and food. So God pointing out the practical, material stakes involved in Nineveh's destruction, hoping that mentioning, if he wasn't going to get anything from Jonah mentioning the people or the innocent, maybe mentioning the cattle would awaken something in Jonah to be like, oh, what? That's right. Let me take this down a little bit. There's also innocent people, innocent animals that are there, and hoping that he can impel. So the mention of these tangible, invaluable resources would get Jonah thinking straight. So God was appealing to his compassion with the innocent and logic with the cattle. So if Jonah could mourn a plant, right? Hoping that Jonah could see that, why shouldn't God care for a city? So God was contrasting Jonah's pity for the plant to show Jonah the same way you pity the plant, it's the same way I pity these people. These are people that I've created. These are people that, are my people, regardless if they're doing wrong and evil and sin, they're still my people. Why shouldn't I pity them? Why shouldn't I forgive them? So Jonah, he only had compassion for what benefited him. As I demonstrated, a couple classes ago, that Jonah was okay to save the sailors because they benefited him. So at this point, Jonah has compassion for what benefits him. The gourd provided shade. It was a benefit, so he pitied it. He had compassion for it. He was sad to see it die. He's so self-centered, so selfish, that if it doesn't make him better, if it doesn't add value to his life, he couldn't care less about it. Sound familiar? With us, if something is not directly benefiting us, we couldn't care less. Someone trying to, I don't know, I don't care, not my thing, not my business, not my thing. We couldn't care less. This is the same attitude that Jonah is showing. Unless he benefits from it, he does not care what happens to it. So the gourd, the worm, and the wind, they have symbolism in this story. So the gourd represents the temporary comfort or blessings taken for granted. Something Jonah enjoyed, but he did not create. We think about those things, blessings that we take for granted: life, protection, material blessings that God, these are the things that we take for granted. We don't think about it. We just, expect it to be there. Those things are temporary, but we just act like we're supposed to have these things. So this is what the gourd is. So when they're there, we enjoy it. But when it's taken away, we're baffled. We're like, oh my goodness, I nearly lost my life, and we have a big testimony. But while life is going on, we're never appreciative of it. We're not waking up and telling God, thank you for the day. We're not waking up and saying, God, thank you for protecting me. But when that near miss on the road, car accident comes, all of a sudden we have the biggest things to say. We want to jump on social media, and we got to tell the whole world that, oh my God, that car nearly killed me. But when every day is going on, we take it for granted. We take God's protection for granted. We take life for protected. We take the material things that God has blessed us with for granted until something happens, until the worm comes. And the worm is divine disruption or hidden lessons. It's the small things used to accomplish big shifts. So in that same way the worm destroyed the gourd, exposing Jonah to the scorching sun, it's the same thing that people do, we lean on, we trust in, we, those gourds, we trust, it's our security, wealth, power, comfort. All those things can easily be stripped away, but we lean on them. We put those things in front of God. We put those things, as our priorities. And those things are easily gone. So the worm comes overnight. Those things, the worm comes, it symbolizes God's sovereign ability to dismantle anything that hinders spiritual growth. That's what that worm is. Right? That worm comes in and takes away anything that is taking God's place. These idols that we have, erected, and these idols that we have placed in front of God, the worm comes in overnight. It's gone. Overnight, the protection is gone. Overnight, life is gone. Overnight, the house is gone. Overnight, the car is gone. Overnight, the bank account is drained out. Overnight, the children are gone. Overnight, the worm comes. Anything that we place and takes the place of God, overnight, stripped away, gone. That's what the worm represents. And the wind is that refining discomfort or that spiritual exposure. It's an instrument to expose and discipline. We saw what the wind did. When Jonah wouldn't yield after the worm came, God said, okay. He sent that violent wind. That wind was so fierce. Jonah fainted. The sun was out. The wind was there. Jonah was faint. It was so bad. He's saying, okay, just kill me. I can't put up with this. That wind, he intensified Jonah's discomfort. It was a discipline. When God sends that little worm and the little things that happen and we don't want to yield, we still want to continue and we want to say, okay, I can withstand this, God. I can do this. I'm stubborn enough. Jonah thought he could too until he got in that belly of the fish. He thought he could withstand God. He thought he was more stubborn. He thought he can do this. He got in that belly of the fish. He humbled himself. He repented real quick. 3 days, but he repented. He was asking God all the kind of forgiveness. He remembered that I cried unto the Lord that heard me. All those things. When God sends these winds in our life, the winds don't come first. He sends the small things, but we don't want to hear those things. We don't want to change. And then God sends the discipline. He sends the wind to show us, to expose us, to get our attention. And these were not random. The gourd, the wind, the worm, they weren't random. God prepared them. God made them happen. God used all three of these things to reveal Jonah's heart, to show Jonah what kind of man he was. God wanted Jonah to see his own self, see his own heart. And God had a final question. There's a final question with no final answer. God's final words were a question. Should I not spare Nineveh? Last thing God said was a full question. And it is, should I not spare Nineveh? Jonah never replies. The book, the chapter, everything ends with a question, with no answer. And that is intentional because it's leaving space. God is asking us today, should I not spare Nineveh? How are we going to answer? Are we going to be proud and be like, God, no, they deserve death. I'm going to be angry about it. You shouldn't have done this. Are we just going to throw things back in God's face? Are we going to be silent? Are we not going to respond? Are we going to change? What are we going to do? This is your opportunity. How are you going to respond to God? The silence is intentional because it puts the reflection back on us. No longer walking in Jonah's footsteps. No longer looking and seeing what Jonah had done. This is us now. God is asking us today, should he not spare Nineveh? Should he not care about his creation? Should he not feel compassion? Should he not welcome those who return home? Should he not be a God that forgives? Should he not be a God that extends mercy? Should he not be a God that extends grace? God is asking us today, how will you answer? How will we answer? And this is a question as we leave this entire teaching session. It's not anything that we need to respond, but it's something that we're looking deep within us and checking our own heart, checking how we feel. And the question is, are we more grieved by our loss, our lost comforts, whatever it is? Are we more grieved by our loss than by the loss of people? That's the question. If what you have and what you've attained and what you possess is more important, and you feel more compassion, and you can, sympathize with over the loss of people, that is speaking to you. Should I not spare Nineveh? We've come to the end of our Bible teaching. I hope this entire series has been a blessing to you. I hope we take away the real lesson that God is a God of mercy and grace. Not just for us, but for everyone, including people we don't like. God is still a God of mercy and grace. Real people, real failures, a real God.